Wow, this game really takes me back. Arcana Heart, a game developed by Examu, then brought over to the US by the wonderful Atlas. It is a 2D fighting game, and a pretty good one at that. Now don't let the pink cover art and the girly looking aesthetic fool ya, for this is a game that I'm sure you will have a lot of fun with. That is, if you stay in the arcade mode, or if you play with friends. Everything else is kind of meh, but you know, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll get to that in a moment. I guess the best place to begin is from the most notable aspect, which is the fact that this fighting game is composed of an entirely female cast of characters. That's right, no guys anywhere to be seen. The closest this game ever gets to a male character is just a small mention of a character's father and a weird demon thing that acts as another character's weapon, but that's pretty much it. Having this kind of cast was obviously a selling point for this game, because I don't see this grabbing anyone's attention otherwise. Thanks to this, I can just imagine a 14-year-old boy making his old merry way to the store to buy the big pink box as their parents sigh, facepalm, and start to wonder where they went wrong. But enough about me, let's talk about the game itself. I have actually played this game, specifically the original, for quite a long time now. The reason being that the gameplay is really good. You can choose one out of 11 characters, then choose a companion spirit helper thing called an Arcana, which opens up an array of special moves you can use in addition to the ones that your character alone already has. Now, why are these girls able to communicate with these spirits? I don't know. They never explain that actually. Unlike many fighting games out there, this one doesn't have much in terms of gauges or meters to look out for. Actually, you only have 3, which is the health bar, a super meter that keeps up accumulating as you fight, which then lets you pull off super moves, hence the name. And lastly, you have the homing meter that allows you to actually home in on your opponent and dash at them from anywhere, whether they're underground or whether they're up in the air. This meter in particular is what sets the game apart from any old generic fighter, because, to be honest, I haven't seen this kind of thing done in a lot of games, if not in any kind of game. It makes the fighting flow really well, and it gives a lot of opportunity for new kinds of combos, especially with things like homing cancels and guard cancels, and being able to throw your opponent into the air, only to beat them up a lot more. That's another really cool thing about the game, the enormous focus on vertical, or better said, aerial combat. Never have I seen a game where launching people into the air and rocking up combos was almost key to winning fights. And it really works. As soon as you get the hang of it, you get really hooked. It makes things really intense, really exciting, and combine that with the unique characters and the different arcana you have access to, and it becomes quite the experience. So up until now I have spoken pretty highly of this game, but what about everything else? Well, that's the part I almost don't want to talk about because of how disappointing it is. There aren't a lot of features in this game, carrying only the most basic of things like an arcade mode, versus mode, training, options, and a gallery mode where you can see pictures and art that you unlock as you keep on playing. And as you expect, there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Yep, you know what I'm talking about. The biggest, and by far the worst part of the game has to be the story mode, unfortunately. Now I know that it is kind of the status quo to have fighting games without a particularly compelling story, but this one, oh my god, this is the most shallow, poorly executed excuse to have girls punch each other that I have ever seen. This kind of story makes Street Fighter look like Heavy Rain in comparison. For starters, there are no voices during the dialogue scenes, neither in English nor Japanese, so that's a huge thing going against it. It really will turn off a lot of people. So I'm gonna try to explain the plot to the best of my abilities. Not because the story is complicated, but because it's just really boring and it'll take me some time to actually remember what happened and why it happened. So basically there are two worlds, the elemental world and the normal world, that used to live together as one a long time ago. but now they're not for some reason. And now the two are going to fuse back together again, which will cause destruction everywhere. Why that is, I have no idea. So knowing this particular piece of information, each character follows their own storyline that eventually leads them to fight against the big boss. That, of course, wants to take over the world, and yeah, nothing to write home about there. This lady has the same amount of complexity as a piece of paper with the word boobs written on it. Most of the things established in the story are never really explained, they're just kinda there, like the character's ability to communicate with the arcanas they use, or why fusing both worlds would kill everybody. Seriously, not even the manual explains that. Now, I do admit, as you progress through each of the character storylines, everyone is actually kinda unique and almost likable in their own way, but they're never really fleshed out as you'd expect them to. They sort of just hint at certain things, or show a tiny shred of actual depth before it gets completely ignored and you go back to fighting again. One last thing I would like to mention is that I really recommend you listen to some music on your iPod while you play. Either that or just shut off the music from the options menu, because the soundtrack is terrible. I mean, just listen to this. It sounds like somebody just took a load of girly sounding loops, put them together in one track, sped them up, and just said, there you go, you have a soundtrack. And I'm just saying that because I actually paid attention to the music. If I was playing the game casually without really thinking about it, I would just feel like an audible blur was in the background that I wouldn't even notice until I actually started thinking about it. So to summarize, the story is bland, generic, there are no voiceover during dialogue scenes, the game lacks in features, and the fan service is really tacked on. However, when you actually start playing the game, as in having the controller in your hand, mashing buttons, and when you pit yourself against one character and the other, I can guarantee you will have a lot of fun with it. The fighting system was well designed, the visual style is nice and colorful, making everything really distinct and different. The homing system, the homing cancels, the uniqueness of the characters, and the arcanas allow for a lot of strategy and a lot of varied experiences throughout. And it's simply solid as a rock. I love it. Even till this day, I keep on playing it. If you have the tiniest shred of interest for this game, I really suggest you go get it. It really is a good game when you get down to it, especially when you play with friends. And that's coming from a guy that is not a real fan of playing with other people. So, as long as you ignore the story mode, this is a good, well-designed game that you will definitely enjoy, and will keep on enjoying as the future sequels improve upon what they had with this original. So there you go, Arcana Heart, coming at you with the power of love. And, you know, fan service.
Game over.